Is Disney getting better? That's a question I've been starting to ponder to myself for, I would say, about 2 to 3 months. Because we've had 2 Disney hits lately. Those are the films known as Inside Out 2 and Deadpool and Wolverine. Hello guys, it's Editing D to the B here. And one thing I did forget is apparently X-Men 97 is doing really good on Disney Plus. Fans have been saying this has been the best Marvel content since Avengers Endgame. Now, I haven't seen X-Men 97. I ditched out on it because I just thought Disney was going to mess this up. Now, I do eventually plan to see this and give my thoughts about it. But there's also been a confirmation that they're doing a season 2 of the show. Hopefully they don't mess it up. Anyway, back to the main video. And I've been wondering, with how things are going with those 2 movies, is Disney starting to understand what fans were saying and are no longer going to use the political game? Well, that's something I would like to discuss with you, with my friend L2C. Hello, my name is D to the B. I am the host of this channel. And this is a topic that I wanted to get into because with 2 movies that have done really well for Disney lately, because starting like I would say 2022, Disney's films began to lose more money as they went on. The trend, I'd say, started with Lightyear. I would say it started with like Solo and The Rise of Skywalker, but Disney's normal films were still getting a lot of money, even though Star Wars was starting to fall off the edge of a cliff with very pointy spikes. But I'd still say it started 2022 because Lightyear, after announcing its controversial decision of adding a gay couple into the film, even though this is a kid's film. Yes, I still stick with that. You can call me bigot all you want, but this stuff should not be in a kid's film. I'm sorry. If you hate my concept so much, why don't you leave the video, go in a corner, and cry like a big baby, and who knows, maybe get your diety changed while you're at it. With all the crybabies out of the way now, why don't we get into the topic again? But anyway, Lightyear did terrible in the box office. Strange Worlds also followed that trend of doing terribly in the box office. If you don't remember which one Strange Worlds was, it was that adventure movie where the main character was a big wuss because he was a farmer, which is dumb as heck because I know a few farmers and they're more tougher than this guy. I could easily beat this guy up. He might be skinny, but I got the muscles or the flat at least. But anyway, you want to say something, LC?
I have seen Lightyear, and I gotta say, that was money not worth spending.
No, it was not. It really
The trailer was better.
The trailers were better. That's the sad thing. I know some people were not invested with the film, which I'll give them credit. They were actually pretty smart. But it did seem interesting. But anyway, again, Strange Worlds came out. That did terrible in the box office.
Is that when they're in the jungle, right?
Yeah, they're in that jungle thing with the blue blob thing that they made a joke like, I want to merchandise it. I'll probably show you a picture after the recording. But yeah, it was the film that came after Lightyear.
I remember the trailer.
It wasn't a Pixar film. It was just a normal Disney film. Because you probably forgot that for a while Disney did do 3D animated movies. Even though they bought Pixar for that reason. Which, if you're going to make your own 3D animated movies, then why keep Pixar? Never mind. Anyway. Then also, there was Elementals, which did not do great. It did better than I think Lightyear and Strange Worlds, and I think it gained a little money back, but it still did not do good for a Disney movie. Then we get into Marvel, which, it just fell off the edge. There was Black Widow, that didn't do great, but granted, there was a whole dilemma with that one because they put it in theaters, but then they also put it on streaming for that stupid pay extra money to see an early access on Disney Plus. Yeah, that stupid thing that even Mulan 2020 did, which also that film didn't do well either, because I'm guessing it had something to do with the time we were in. I think it came out when we were still in a certain thing that we're not going to bring up because YouTube won't let us. Same with Cruella. The same thing happened. It also fell off the edge. They were the worst two live-action Disney remakes performances ever. And honestly, I celebrated for that because I hate the remakes with all my heart. I really hate them. I did a video a while back, but honestly, I would not mind redoing that video to give a better analysis because I've gotten better with my arguments as I've continued on with YouTube. But anyway, continuing on back to Marvel, again, it was more of a divide thing, which ended up being a lawsuit situation with Scarlett Johansson and Disney, which then they dropped her from projects, or at least I think they did. I can't entirely remember, but who cares? And the movie itself, it was not that great. I'm gonna be honest. It was better than Captain Marvel, but it was still bad. Why? Because it was made by the same people as Captain Marvel. People say that one was worse, but no. At least I saw some appeal to the movie. Yes, Elvis.
I think Black Widow would have been a lot better if they didn't have the same people that worked on Captain Marvel work on Black Widow.
You see, I agree with that, but I also think they should have put her instead of Captain Marvel's place for Phase 3 because that Captain Marvel movie was so unnecessary and it did nothing for Phase 3. I know she was in Endgame, but honestly, I don't care because the Infinity Saga was based off the characters that we grew to love. It would have made more sense to push that garbage Captain Marvel movie to Phase 4 and expand her character after Endgame and have Black Widow instead.
But if I had to... I've seen Black Widow. I've seen Captain Marvel. If I had to choose to watch both of those things, give me Black Widow.
Yeah, I also would have rewritten it a bunch, but
yeah.
Who knows? Maybe someday I can do a review on that Black Widow movie. But not today because that's not important. What is important is if Disney's turning. I might as well continue. The next film that came out in Phase... Actually, no, I think it was shows that came out after Black Widow or before Black Widow. Let's start with WandaVision. It was alright, but I've definitely soured on the series since because of the finale and also what Multiverse of Madness led into. But anyway, let's continue on. Falcon and Winter Soldier. I absolutely did not like this show. I thought it was really dumb. Then we get to the worst one, Loki. I hated it. I really, really hated it. Like, it was so dumb. Like, if you want to know why I think it's dumb, if you actually have the three things, a brain, can take others' opinions, and being a grown-up, I would say, please go watch my Loki review, which I will leave the playlist at the end of the video. It was really bad. And then What If was also really bad. I couldn't even finish What If. That's how bad it was. At least I powered through with Loki because I was doing a review series on it. And no, I have not seen Loki season 2, but it sounds like it finally plummeted down. Finally, during season 2, because I heard season 2's viewings were not that great. But continuing on, after that was Spider-Man No Way Home, which surprisingly it did actually pretty good for the Marvel direction. Granted, this was still when Marvel was still new to Phase 4, and people can say, oh, no, it might be not great, but it might get better. But yeah, that movie was surprisingly good. Then Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness. I didn't hate the film, but it certainly wasn't great. I don't see myself ever rewatching it. Funny enough, I haven't rewatched the movie. I haven't watched the movie since it when I first saw it in theaters. That's how much I didn't really care for it. Then after that was Thor Love and Thunder. I skipped it. It looked stupid. Like, I did not like the humor in this trailer. This is a great example of too much humor killing cinema. Then there was Black Panther Wakanda Forever. This film was, I've heard, pretty bad. Like, I was open to seeing a Black Panther 2, but then one tragic thing happened and the main lead of the movie had passed away at the same time, which you would think, would they recast this lead with somebody else? Nah, let's just make his sister the new Black Panther. Yeah, that's a great idea. It's genius, A+. No, I heard this film did terrible in the box office. I heard it was good for like the first couple of minutes, and that was the tribute thing to the actor, and that's it. I hear everything else is terrible. Then why don't we get into more shows? There was Miss Marvel. I heard that one didn't do too well. Then there was Hawkeye. Also didn't do too well, but I've heard some interesting things. Aldous would like to say something.
I thought Hawkeye wasn't that bad in my opinion. I would rather watch that over Loki or Miss Marvel.
Yeah. I also heard that the character Kate Bishop actually struggled and wasn't a Mary Sue. That's what I've heard from a video that I watched, so I'm actually considering watching that show. Unlike before. Anyway, continuing on. Then we got She-Hulk. We all know how that went. Yeah, I knew this was going to be a dumpster fire. And man, that CGI is terrible for She-Hulk. Hulk looks fine. It's just She-Hulk. You see, which leads into another issue of also Disney overworking the MCU CGI department, making them use a lot of CGI, and with all the projects that they were doing, because they weren't doing the 2-movie formula anymore. They were doing like 4 movies and like 4 TV shows all at once, and that's why in a lot of their films the CGI is terrible. Like Eternals CGI looked terrible. I know She-Hulk's did. Like, they kept rushing them as they kept moving forward. Then there was Moon Knight. It was alright. I think it was good, like, in the middle, but then the show fell off at the final episode. Moon Knight is one that I need to talk about.
For someone, like, for me, I saw Moon Knight. I saw all the episodes all the way through.
Same.
I liked it. I gotta say, I like that a lot more than Hawkeye. But I do have to agree with a lot of fans that the last episode, that really was like
Not that
not that good.
Anyway, continuing on. I also I also feel like the show was definitely stretched out. I feel like you could have cut most of that stuff out and it would have made better as a movie, to be honest. It's just there was too much stuff. It was dragged out. It wasn't bad, but it was dragged. But anyway, continuing on. After that, I'm pretty sure it was Secret Invasion, which was that Nick Fury show. I hear that one didn't do that great. And then after that, it was like or maybe before or after that, it was that Guardians holiday special, which was actually pretty good. And then we get to Guardians 3, which was also pretty good. And I think for me at the time, and still somewhat technically is, I thought that was a perfect way to wrap up the MCU because the Guardians and Spider-Man were all that I cared for. I wanted their stories finished, and then I was done. But unfortunately, I kept watching after Guardians 3. For one, I lost a bet to my friend Full Metal Dipper. Again, rest in peace. But I had to watch the Marvels. That was terrible. Like, it seemed like a bit of an upgrade from Captain Marvel, but it was still pretty bad. I still need to make a review on that. And how it's terrible. And that was about it for the MCU. Star Wars has been getting worse. As I mentioned, Rise of Skywalker did terribly in the box office. Same with Solo. Then it picked up again with Mando, season 1 and 2. But then it dropped again once they fired Gina because people did not like Disney's hypocrisy on the political stance. Like, you'll fire the person on the side that disagrees with you, but you'll keep the people who stand on your side. Either way, neither side in Hollywood should talk politics. I do not want to hear politics from Hollywood executives and actors because they're like the most privileged people in the country. So I don't want to hear Hollywood executives saying that white men are bad because you're rich. You're not in the middle class like us or the lower class. Just Hollywood executives, just shut up. Nobody cares. But anyway, continuing on. Then Book of Boba Fett came out, did terrible. Kenobi came out, did terrible. Then there was Bad Batch, which I surprisingly enjoyed it. I liked what I saw. I personally like the characters of the Bad Batch members, except Omega, you still suck. To this day, especially season 3. And I enjoyed the whole show. Visions, it was alright. I liked the first season, but I will admit there were a lot of issues with that show. Especially episode 3. I will never forget episode 3 of that show. That was terrible. But anyway, then we get to the Ahsoka series. No, before that it was Tales of the Jedi, which was alright. I did not care for the Ahsoka stuff. I more liked the Dooku stuff. I think they should have left Ahsoka out of Tales of the Jedi. Especially since we were going to get an Ahsoka show after. And then we get to Ahsoka. Yeah, that was bad. If you haven't seen my review, I did a whole video on how that show was absolutely terrible. And it was. And then I've also heard The Acolyte hasn't been doing that well. I didn't see The Acolyte. I have no plan to. Hey, I already know I talked about this topic, but as another thing, The Acolyte got canceled, so that's a benefit for Disney. But granted, at the same time, there are a lot of people who are pissed off, mostly the shills, that are pissed off that the show got canceled. And who knows, it might affect Disney in some way, like a lot more than it already was. Granted, a friend did point out that they're Disney shills. They're going to eventually go back and say, oh, Star Wars is back, which is actually a good point, but who knows? Maybe Disney shows will actually turn on Disney for once. We'll see. I just wanted to throw this out there. Anyway, let's continue on. And then before The Acolyte was Tales of the Empire, which I saw. This is basically how I felt about it. I hated it. It was... Oh my gosh. I have not hated a Filoni show more than this one besides Star Wars Resistance and Ahsoka. I have not hated a show that much. Both arcs of Tales of the Empire were garbage. At least with Tales of the Jedi, you had the Ahsoka arc, which was not that great. But then you had the Dooku arc, which was great. I actually enjoyed the Dooku arc in that show. But Tales of the Empire, the Morgan arc, it sucked. The Barriss arc, it sucked. It was... Anyway, I'm getting off point. And again, then The Acolyte happened. It's Disney Plus's worst Star Wars show. And it is not doing that great. But this is where things begin to turn a little bit. Because at the same time The Acolyte was on episode 4, Disney's one savior in a long time for a modern Disney movie had come out. And that was Inside Out 2. I remember the internet talking about this film actually being good. I remember even people that I followed saying it was good. I even talked with some of my watch party members, and they were like, yeah, it's good. So I'm like, okay, maybe I underestimated this film because I liked the first Inside Out movie, and I was concerned about the second one, but hearing the second one was actually pretty good had a little bit of hope for me because I saw garbage after garbage. And then I went to see the movie. It was absolutely good. It was really good. It was the best Disney movie in forever. And it had a bit of a positive look. And yes, The Acolyte was still going by this point. I even made a joke in the watch party saying, like, you know, it's a little bit funny. I feel like they went like, you've been watching The Acolyte? Here's this good movie. Okay, now we're going to go back to The Acolyte. Because the show was like halfway through when Inside Out 2 had came out. And I'd say that was about it. It was Disney's normal schedule. And then we had a bunch of announcements for films, which I'm going to get to next. And then then we got an announcement for Captain America New World Order, which I didn't care for. I remember Elsa C sent me a trailer to this one, and I'm like, I don't care. I'm done. I hated Falcon and the Winter Soldier enough already. There was no way I was seeing a Captain America movie with this Captain America. I mean, the suit in the end of the show was cool, but that's all I can give it. The rest of the show is terrible. And also, over time, I still think Bucky should have been the next Captain America. I remember not hating the idea of Falcon being Captain America, but thinking it over and watching a bunch of videos, I'm into the opinion that he should have been Captain America. I'm sorry. Think however you want, but that's my thoughts on it. So yeah, that film was released. But then at the same time, trailers and advertisements of Deadpool and Wolverine had come out. And then recently, I watched the movie, which, don't worry, there will be a review on it at some point. soon. Hopefully, like tomorrow or something like that, depending on when this video comes out. And this movie was actually pretty good. I am surprised with how many risks Disney took with this movie. It still holds its R-rated rating. It also shows a lot of blood and gruesome deaths, like the other two Deadpool movies. It was surprisingly really good. I felt like there were some areas that felt a bit off, but again, I'll get into my review with that. And here we are. The state where I'm starting to think that Disney is actually getting better. And I probably am missing some things, which is fair. I haven't been really paying attention to Disney stuff lately because of how they've been going. But now we're on to my next point. And that is the announcement of a bunch of new films that they've come out with. Some already revealed in the panel that came out not too long ago, and then also some that I knew ahead of time before their panel came out. So why don't we start with the ones that came with the panel? Let's start with Moana 2. This film I don't know how I feel about, because I liked the first one, don't get me wrong, but I have to tell you, with how Disney has been going, and also me getting sick of Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson because of that horrible film Black Adam, I don't know how to feel about this one. And especially the announcement of them doing a live-action remake on Moana that also kills it. So yeah, I don't know how to feel about this film. Then there was Toy Story 5. I don't care. I thought 4 was fine at best. It wasn't a great movie, but it wasn't the worst thing I saw. I did have a lot of issues with it. And, yeah, no. Especially the plot detail about how it's going to be Bonnie gets a tablet and the toys aren't played with as much because the tablet's cooler, which it's diving into that modern media thing that I can't stand in entertainment. Especially, it's probably going to be set up really bad with how I don't know. They just keep wanting to shove modern things into shows, and I'm really kind of sick of it at this point. And they don't even do it properly. If they did it properly, I wouldn't be complaining. And then we also have announcement of a new Buzz Lightyear toy that's going to be like hundreds of them, but they have like a big red circle in the middle of their chest that lights up. I don't know anything about this Buzz Lightyear, but apparently this is true. Unless if they change the plot, which technically it could be possible. Technically, the Toy Story 4 that we got wasn't the first idea they had. They had a whole different Toy Story 4 in development before the one we got. And then we get the Lilo and Stitch remake. No. Just no. Leave that film alone. I know they probably announced it. I don't care. Just leave it alone. And then we get Incredibles 3. Great! 14 more years of waiting. I don't care if it's announced that it's coming out next year or something like that. We're waiting 14 more years. That's the joke that I've been doing for years. Anyway, LC, go ahead.
Do you want to tell them when I was in the...
Yeah, you can go ahead.
So, I was on my phone and I looked, I'm like, oh, Incredibles 3. Oh, looks like we have to wait for another 14 years for that thing to come out.
I just make that joke everywhere. It's like, great, 14 more years. I was like 2 or 1 when that first movie came out, because it came out in 2004. I was born in 2002. So, yeah. And I was like a sophomore or a junior when that film came out. I was a sophomore. It was 2018.
with all these new announcements from Disney, there's probably only one film I'm interested in.
What's that?
Avatar 3.
Yes, Avatar 3 was also announced. Then there was also the announcement of Daredevil Born Again, which is something I'm worried about because I am worried what they're going to do with Daredevil since Disney owns the rights to him. Because Netflix willingly gave up on keeping those shows on their platform. Which, great job, Netflix. You did a good job. Not really, but still. I am really scared about that show. And then we also had an announcement with Monster Jam and Disney. I don't know too much about this one. Do you know?
I watched the video. I could barely hear what Dwayne Johnson was even talking about.
Yeah. I'll probably have an editing D to the B come in after he looks more into it. Okay, I looked into the Disney Monster Jam thing. Now, I thought the Disney Monster Jam project was going to be like Monster Jam was going to turn some of Disney's iconic characters into monster trucks, which some of them I would buy, I would say, and others I wouldn't. But it turns out that Monster Jam signed a deal with Disney to make a Monster Jam movie. Oh my gosh. What are they thinking? I don't even think Monster Jam could be made into a movie. And also, to make things worse, they chose Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson as the lead of it. And I think he was the one who pitched the movie too. As I said earlier, I'm sick of Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson. He has been in everything, especially when it came to Black Adam. And also, I kind of didn't really care when he reappeared in Fast and Furious 10 because I was already sick of him at this point. I didn't even watch Hobbs and Shaw, which from some people I heard was good, but other people say it's garbage. One day I'll check it out, but I don't know if it's going to be anytime soon. But anyway, go back to the main video. Into it. I started watching it halfway. Anyway.
And I'm concerned about that.
Yeah, I'm concerned about it too.
Like,
and there's also more films that probably haven't been announced yet. Like, we're getting a Frozen 3 and 4. I don't know how. 3 hasn't even came out yet. Why are you announcing a 4th one? I didn't hate the first Frozen. I didn't see the second one. The second one looked pretty boring. I keep hearing that's not bad, but I've also heard on the internet it's not very good either. That's what I keep hearing. Again, Incredibles 3. A Tron 3, which I'm going to be real. I really don't care about the Tron films. I found them way too confusing for me to understand them. And there's so much more. And then also we know that there's a Mufasa movie coming out, which I don't think that one's going to do well in the box office, knowing how Lion King 2020 did really good in the box office. Gosh darn it! But no, I think with how many people hated that film, I don't think it's going to do that well in the box office. With that cringy animation that makes them look so dead inside. And the rest is a bunch of sequels and remakes that nobody cares about. So yeah, after rambling on for 30-something minutes, wasting your time with useless stuff, it's time for the conclusion of this video. In my belief, I think Disney has not gotten better. Even with the success of Inside Out 2 and Deadpool and Wolverine, I don't think right now that they have learned their lesson and they're going to change a new leaf. I think they're going to stick with what they did. Now, I could be wrong, and I will say, if Disney completely does a switch where they start making good movies and shows again, I will admit it. But there's a lot that's holding a lot of stuff back. Like, for example, with Star Wars, even if, like, let's say there's a new Star Wars movie that comes out, maybe it's the Mando and Grogu movie. We definitely know it's not going to be the Rey movie. We definitely know that. I have no hopes for the Mando and Grogu movie either, but I'm just bringing it up as a point since they like Mando more than Rey, which I couldn't blame them. With all the stuff that Disney Star Wars has done, you would have to basically retcon a lot of stuff to make Star Wars good again. And then Marvel, I say the same thing. I remember having a debate with somebody that I know, and I don't think the MCU is getting better. The only way the MCU will get better is if you retcon Phase 4 and 5. You can keep things like Guardians 3, the holiday special, No Way Home, and Deadpool 3. You can keep them, but it won't be enough to save the franchise. So I don't think at the moment that Disney has learned their lesson. I think they're going to keep going with what they're doing. And again, I could be wrong. Maybe the new Captain America movie will be really good from what the trailers have shown. I think it's gonna be generic, boring, woke MCU film 580. I know it's not been that much, but you get my point. But I really, really doubt it. And it might just be because I've been dealing with, like, I think it's been like 5 or 6 years of this political garbage that has been shoved down my throat, and I've gotten so sick of it. And Deadpool 3 and Inside Out 2 were a bit of fresh air. I appreciate Disney making both those movies, but unless if Disney really wants to prove that they can change, they have to think their strategy over, cancel a bunch of the unnecessary sequels that we don't need, and that's how I think you could save Disney. Hello, guys. It is Editing D to the B here again, and I completely forgot about the ending of the video, so yeah, there's some footage that was lost. When I was editing the video, I didn't stretch it out enough where it was the full recording, so I gotta make this new ending, which is perfect anyway, because I forgot to mention the Snow White remake, which I was reminded by a friend of mine by a video he sent me. And yeah, that movie looks like it's going to flop hard in the box office because A, it's another remake, and B, Rachel Zegler is one of the worst human beings in existence. Not only criticizing the original source material, but also mocking fans who love the original source material. What is up with these Hollywood executives and criticizing the fans? It's like they don't want any money. I don't know. Who cares anymore? I just wanted to mention that film because I completely forgot about it. It's gonna flop hard, and I can't wait for it. But yeah, that's my thoughts. How do you feel about Disney? Do you think they're gonna get better, even with a lot of films that are a bit questionable, or do you think they're gonna stay about the same? Tell me in the comments, and have a nice day, everyone.